friends, my name is Rhiannon, and today we're going to talk about how to plot your NaNoWriMo novel. Hello. To my new subscribers, welcome. To my pre-existing ones, welcome back. It's lovely to see you all here. Today I'm going to share some methods with you about how to plot your NaNoWriMo novel, and just a heads up, it will be a bit of a long one, but if I'm doing my job right, it'll be a very helpful one too. To start off, let's quickly just talk about NaNoWriMo's 3 types of plotters. I've done a whole video on this, which I'll link in a card up here so that you can check it out later, and I won't spend too long on it here. But for the basic rundown, you've got plotters, pantsers, and plantsers. A plotter is your most meticulous type of literary planner. They're going to go fairly in depth with their work in Preptober and stick pretty closely to that plot as they write. Pantsers fly by the seat of their pants and are the opposite of a plotter pretty much. They might not do much, if anything, through all of Preptober and just launch right into it on November 1st. And if you're not either of these extremes and you just sort of land somewhere between, then you can call yourself a plantser, which is exactly what I am. I plot my entire novel, but loosely, and it often changes around quite a bit as I go, but that outlining gives me peace of mind, knowing that I've got it there for guidance and support, even though I might wind up obliterating it. NaNoWriMo has actually created a little quiz so you can figure out where you land if you're not too sure. So if you'd like to give it a shot, I'm going to be linking it down in the description below. There's actually going to be a lot down there this time, so please take a look. Lots of resources, lots of help, and some fun things too. But moving along from those categorizations, we're going to talk about 5 different methods that you can use when you start to plot your novel, no matter how plotty or pantsy you are. Say you've got the seed of an idea, something glimmering in the back of your mind. It could be a character, a particular world, or maybe just a few scenes that you'd really like to tackle. This method, which was inspired by Cassandra Lee Yang, a blog linked down below, will help you to explore these concepts before you launch into an entire novel with them. One of the interesting things about this method is that it works with scenes rather than sentences, and you're going to need some index cards. First, find your comfy writing spot. You're going to sit here and just sort of meditate on the concepts that you have for a bit. Close your eyes and just think about this story, this potential story, from beginning to end. As you do this, you're going to take breaks to jot down every single scene that comes to mind. Don't worry if there are spaces, unlinked scenes, things that are not in order. Think of this kind of as stream of consciousness writing. It doesn't have to make sense yet. You want to be open-minded and loose here. Do this until you've collected 50 to 100 scene ideas. And don't worry if it takes you more than one imagination session. That is totally okay and expected. After you've got your big mess of ideas, it's going to be time to put them in order. Grab all the index cards and get a notebook or your Word document and start sorting them out. A good way to do this is by beginning, middle, and end. You still don't need to be too strict with the precise order here. During this organization period, do not throw away any scenes, keep them all. At last, you're going to fine-tune these piles. Take the beginning, middle, and work through them and organize all the scenes properly, add and remove as needed, and eventually you will have your mostly complete list of scenes that will appear in your novel. In November, use this as a rough guide to keep you on track and moving forward, but the thing is, this version allows you to pants your way through the actual writing. You're going to have a lot to discover as you write, but the basic structure will help you get through to the end of the month. If you've taken classes on writing, already written a novel, or have just been Googling around about plot, you'll probably have seen a diagram that looks an awful lot like a roller coaster. It's a classic plot method that describes where action should take place in your novel, and it's quite useful. The roller coaster, which I will be putting in here somewhere, consists of 6 segments as follows. First is the setup. This is on the ground level. It sets up your story by telling a bit about characters and their lives, the world they're in, etc. before we start getting into the action. The roller coaster's second level is the inciting incident. We're starting to go up here. This event will launch your protagonist into adventure. It will generally be the first exciting point of the novel. Next is your rising action. We're heading to the top. This is the longest part of your novel, the bulk of it, the body. All of this will build to the climax. So during your rising action, you need to flesh out your characters further, build relationships, and lay the groundwork for your big finish. Reaching the top of the roller coaster, we hit the climax. This is like a second inciting incident, but a lot bigger. The moment doesn't last long. It can even be as short as one paragraph, but you want to leave your readers asking what happens next before they launch into that high-speed drop. And so, second to last, we move into falling action. Unlike rising action, the fifth section of your novel is fast-paced and action-packed. This is a great spot for final battles and character deaths. And last but not least, we reach the resolution. This is the finale of your novel. Hopefully, your protagonist will have gotten what they want. If not, well, nothing wrong with a dark ending. Either way, though, you are going to have to wrap up your novel. Even if you're going on to a second one in a series, cliffhangers are fine, but even if you're moving along to part 2 or part 3, depending on what book you're on, you want some level of true change to have occurred. Some level of accomplishment. Something that changes the way your main character sees their world and their place in it. So what do you do with all this? Create your own roller coaster. You can use the actual diagram or simply write it out in a notebook or on your computer using the different titles. This method really helps you achieve a good flow in your novel, and honestly, you could even combine it with the first method if you like. If the fast and loose method is too loose and the roller coaster doesn't have quite enough detail in it for you, these next methods are going to be a bit closer to what you're looking for. We start off with the 9-step plot dot. This method is adapted from the hero's journey model, which is even more of a classic than the roller coaster. To go by the words of NaNoWriMo participant Derek Murphy in his plot dot blog post, nearly all fiction follows some version of the classical hero's journey. A character has an experience, learns something, and is consequently improved. These are turning points and scenes that need to be included in your story. If they are missing, it won't connect with your readers in an emotionally powerful way, and it's 1,000 times easier to map them out before you write your book. So, going by this diagram, you're going to start off with your main character, or MC, in the ordinary world. This is also labeled start with lack, so lacking in something. You're going to see the character's normal day-to-day life and find out what is missing from that life. This method's version of the inciting incident is the call to adventure. In it, your character faces a big change. Think of Bilbo being visited in the dead of night by a crew of dwarves to serve as their burglar. From here, we go on to the first plot point, or point of no return. Maybe your MC had doubts about their place in this adventure, but something has now happened that locks them into it. There's no turning back. This then leads to our first pinch point, or first battle. This is when your MC's mettle is first tested, which brings them on to the midpoint of the novel in which they shift from victim to warrior. Next, we hit the second pinch point, or second battle. Now, these don't have to be literal battles, by the way, with swords. Like in my last video where I discussed different types of antagonists, this could be a mental battle instead, a challenge, something your main character has to overcome that is more interior than exterior. The second pinch point leads to the second plot point, or what we're calling the dark night of the soul. Here, everything your MC fears has come to pass, or so that is how they're perceiving it. They've lost a battle, generally because of a personal flaw or lack of knowledge, and they have seen real consequences. But something forces them to move on. They have a revelation that pulls them up out of the ashes. During the dark night of the soul, your MC is preparing for our last plot dot, the final battle. With new knowledge and confidence, your MC goes to battle with their biggest enemy and comes out victorious. However, as this is a circular plot, our hero returns to the ordinary world. They are changed. The world is not as it was before, and we see this through their new eyes. I'm sure you can see how this is such a classic, and I'd like for you to do me a favor and tell me in the comments down below what story or stories came to mind when you were thinking on each plot point, but not The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, because I brought that one up already, so that's cheating. If the hero's journey is a classic method in the literary world as a whole, Save the Cat is a classic method of the NaNoWriMo world, or that's how I see it anyway, as that's where I've seen it promoted the most. And it just happens to be the method I used when plotting my 2020 NaNoWriMo novel, A Time When Demons, which, by the way, you can buy now, link down below. Save the Cat was developed by Blake Snyder to help screenwriters plot movies, but it works just as well with novels or graphic novels. Blake breaks down a 3-act structure into small sections that push your story forward, and one of the coolest parts of this is that he even includes percentages to give you an idea of how long each segment should be. During NaNoWriMo, your goal is 50,000 words, which divided up by 500 word pages, which is about your average, you get 100 pages, which makes the math pretty easy. Now, some of these segments are only 1%, meaning in this case, 1 page long. That will seem very short, but remember you can always expand on it during the editing process after November. So let's walk through it. Act 1 consists of an opening image, setup, statement of theme, catalyst, and debate. These segments take you through our ordinary world character introduction to the story concept, inciting action, and any concerns your MC has going into the second act. Act 2 starts by breaking into the second part of the story, in which your protagonist decides to answer the call after internal debate. This then leads to the promise of the premise, or fun and games. This section is a long one, 21 to 50%, and can be compared to the rising action of the roller coaster method. In it, you're going to delve deeper into the story, deliver on back-of-the-book promises, and just entertain your reader. During Act 2, you also get to explore the B story. Does your MC's best friend have a dark past that they're exploring on the side that will eventually collide with the MC's journey? This is a great point to introduce a new character who eventually will help your MC learn life lessons, whether this is done out of kindness from a friend or spite from an enemy. Act 2 crescendos to a midpoint where everything is then turned on its head. If your rising action was negative, maybe something good happens here. If it was positive, you're gonna aim for the opposite. A false victory or a false defeat, which leads to the bad guys closing in. Again, these can be physical bad guys or emotional ones like doubt and fear. Your MC's new world is unraveling, leading to page 75 of your Nano draft, in which all is lost. And once again, we are in the dark night of the soul, which will take us into Act 3. We break into Act 3 with an aha, or lift yourself up and try again moment, followed by the finale, in which the bad guys generally are defeated. And last but not least, the final image you choose to leave your reader with. By now, you're probably seeing a lot of similarities among these methods, and you're right to catch that. But I have tried each and every one of these, and I've found that they're really different enough that I get something new out of each and every one, depending on which I'm going with. So, with that, what comes next? Now, this one's not going to take me a whole lot of time, but it will open doors for you to spend more time on this topic. Our final method takes all of our previous methods and tosses them in together into one big super planning method. The K-tastic method for true plotters uses 3 acts, 9 blocks, and 27 chapters to take you through your story. And this method comes with its own how-to video and spreadsheet, which, you guessed it, I will link in the description down below. I highly recommend that you go check it out, but for now, I'll just put her chart up on the screen so that you can get an idea of what it consists of. After our previous walkthroughs, I'm sure you'll be able to grasp what each segment means. And that's all for today. I do hope that you stuck it out and also found some inspiration. What I'd like to know is, what is your favorite plotting method? Is it one of these? Is it something else? If you've got another method to share, please do so in the comments. I'm always curious about how other writers tackle Preptober. But quick, before you go, I have an important announcement. I am going to be running sprints on YouTube again. Today, in fact. They start at 1 p.m. Eastern and run until 3 p.m. I finally have a computer tower again after, I think, a month and a half without, so should be able to get everything up and running properly. I really hope you can make it, but if you can't, there are always Discord sprints through the week. You can find links to my server in the description, and I think I'm going to pin a comment as well to just make it super accessible. And I am hoping to do another YouTube sprint session next Saturday and every Saturday after that until the end of November at least. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you've been here for a while, I'm so glad you've decided to stay. If you're new, I hope you make the same decision. As always, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell button so you actually get notified every time I post a new video. And last but not least, I hope that you are having a day that is just as wonderful as you are. Bye.